I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us. This is Demonstrated Success, New Hampshire SAS Modular and Interim Assessments, how to give them remotely. We want to thank the Department of Ed for sponsoring this webinar and many other fantastic webinars. And Mordecai will be running this. And if you've been to our webinars in the past, you've certainly had her. She's fantastic. I want to just go through a few things quickly. Thank you to the New Hampshire Department of Ed. Thank you to all of you for your dedication to your students and to yourselves, making yourselves better. Everyone will be muted. Please ask questions. I'm going to ask you to put them in the Q&A section of your Zoom screen. So you might see some chatter going on right now. Put all questions in the Q&A. That helps us keep them organized, make sure we answer them. If we have any links or anything, we'll put that in chat for everyone to see. But, oh, yep, that's number 5. I was just saying that. Look at me, just saying that off the cuff. We also wanted to direct you to the Department of Ed's New Hampshire Learns Remotely.com website. It has information for you, your students, and your families, links to many sites for everything that can help you help them better, from food to wellness programs. And a calendar that's updated with the upcoming events. Excuse me for 1 minute. Sorry, I thought my Alexa would keep going. Anne's favorite. Anne, do you want to take this part of Mr. Rogers, or would you like me to?
I'll do it. I love Mr. Rogers. So good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say, don't let perfect get in the way of good. I know even working on this webinar and the PowerPoint, I got to change it a little, It doesn't, I could have probably stopped hours ago and it still would be fine. We all are, all you can do is your best. And if you feel like people are attacking you, like I know around the state that people are attacking teachers and school boards and everything, all we can do is our best. There's nothing else we can do. So it is definitely good enough. And don't forget to find time to take care of yourself. So we're going to start right in. There's Heather, and Beth hid her face today for some reason, but I'm going to hide my face right now. It's less distracting if I do it that way. I want to start.
Can I just ask too?
Sure.
Don't hesitate. Wanted to remind everyone not to hesitate to ask your questions in the Q&A, but if you let her do, a bulk of the webinar too, you might have some of those questions answered. So write them down, but don't forget that she might be getting to it right before you ask.
And at the end, if there's time, I mean, there will be time, no matter what time it is, we can just unmute people who want to stay and ask some other questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Beth and Heather will interrupt me every now and then with some questions that seems like they should be interrupting me for. This is what we're going to talk about today. So if you come to any of these webinars about the SAS assessments before, this is going to be a little different because I'm really focusing on the interims and not the modulars. And usually I focus on the modulars because, like a weirdo, I love them. So we're going to talk about how do I administer the test remotely, and what kind of setup do I need to do with students, which, there's a little bit you have to do, and how do I find and use the results. Those are the major things. There are a few other things that I've thrown in there, but majorly that's what we're going to talk about. These were some questions that we had on the registrations. How do we do this from home? What's required in the fall? I'll tell you right now, ELA and math tests are required in October from 4th grade to 8th grade, with every grade taking the grade behind them test. So 4th graders take 3rd grade, 5th take 4th, etc. Just for ELA and math, not science. You can use science, but it's not required. And they are expected to be done by the end of November. And you could start them anytime except the system isn't ready yet, so you can't start them yet. When do we get the results? We get the results right away. Like I say immediately, but it actually takes, you got to log off. The kid has to log off, you have to log off, and then wait 3 minutes or something. And so pretty much it's immediate. The benchmarks are only for ELA and math. No, they're also for science. What about test validity and security? That is a really good question. There is really no way to know if parents are helping, or big sisters or babysitters or brothers are helping. that is going to have to be a teacher by teacher, a school by school decision. Hopefully we can convince the parents that the purpose of these interim assessments in October are just to learn what students know so we can move forward from there. How do we use the interims and benchmarks throughout the year? I don't think I'm going to get into that very much, but if there's time, I will. Are there questions already that?
I think just clarifying, somebody was asking if they're administering an interim or the summative in the fall. It is just the interim.
It is just the interim. So the question was, are we administering the interims or the summatives? You will have a choice when you log on to administer the interims or the benchmarks and not the summatives, but you are supposed to be administering the interims. And I will tell you the difference a little later on.
And the other one is,
Yeah.
do they have to do it remotely or can they do it in school?
Do they have to do it remotely or can they do it in school? I don't know if you can hear Heather's question or not. They can do it remotely or in school, whichever you are. If you're in school and you want to do it in school, that's great. If you have a couple days where they're home and you're working with the other half of the class, they can take it remotely, whichever way you want. I have a poll here. I've never run a poll in Zoom, but I'm going to try it. Oh, Beth, did you have something?
One more question.
Yeah.
Do we need to reach out to students using VLAX?
Ooh, I don't know. I would say probably if they are enrolled in your school, you do. But we can ask that of the state. We'll find that out. I would say yes, you probably do. I am going to launch this poll and I just want to know, essentially what are people looking for today? So I can cover the things that most people want. So why did you come to the webinar today? And you can choose as many as you want. So I see the results are coming in. So we've got, a lot of, I have never administered them is almost equal with I have administered them in person, but not remotely because nobody's done it remotely. And right now I only have time to learn about the remote part. Yep. I don't know how to look at the results, or I want to look at them. I want to learn about using the benchmarks, so I'll talk about that, hopefully. Why would I use these other than when they are required? The rest of the words didn't show up. I have tons of time. Bring it on. Yeah, everybody's saying that one.
And while you're reading that, can I just ask you too? Gina wrote secure browser at home. I'm guessing she wants to know if you have to have a secure browser at home.
Hi, Gina. You do not have to have a secure browser at home. That's one of the big changes that they made.
And will the Chromebooks need to be in the secure browser mode when administering it?
Chromebooks can be in the secure browser mode, but they don't need to be. So if you have a secure browser on your computers already, if the students have that, they can use them, but they don't have to. So those are the results. So somebody said a few people said their reasons weren't listed here. I'd love to hear what your reasons are. So if you could put those into the questions, that would be great. So it does look like everybody, you want to learn how to use them. If you only have time to learn about how to administer the interims remotely, if that's all you have time for, that's what I'm doing first. So once we're done with that, you can log off. So I know that everybody's crazy busy right now. So thank you for taking that.
Do you know when the users will receive the welcome email from New Hampshire SAS?
Is like from, you mean the teachers or the students?
I don't know. Adele, I do tech and need to support teachers and proctors. When will we receive the welcome email from New Hampshire SAS?
I'm not aware of any welcome letter from the SAS. You can log on now and get a new email. If you're in the system, if your superintendent has put your name in the system, which they probably have, if you're a 3rd through 8th grade teacher or 3rd through 11th grade teacher, you can go right in and log in, get a new password, and then you have to take the certification process, which I'll tell you about in a minute.
Okay. I'm going to ask you these other two, and then it's all yours to just go on for a little bit. Mm-hmm. One is how is the process for interim differ from summative? Do we have to choose a topic like in modular? I'm assuming you'll get to that.
I'll just answer it now. The process is different from the summative. It's different than the summative has been before because we could never do the remote before. So they have changed the whole administration process. If you've administered them before, I can't say it's really intuitive, but it's not that hard to figure out, I don't think. I actually haven't even seen it yet. I am using a PowerPoint presentation that the company created. So I haven't seen the actual system yet, but it is different in that it's remote now. And what was the other part of the question? Do you remember?
Do we administer this to students who participate in DLM in the spring? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, there was another one. Do we choose the you do not choose a topic. The interims cover all the standards. The modulars, you can just pick different topics. So the interims, you just pick the interim and that's it. And then the other question was the DLMs. I don't think you have to. I would say you do not have to give these tests to the kids who take the DLM. I'm going to just say that. I'm going to make that a blanket statement. Okay.
We'll get this started. Thanks.
Okay. So this is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk about I'm going to give you an overview. Cambium is the new company. It used to be the company was called Air, and now it's called Cambium. So it's the portal. I'm going to give you the overview of the portal. How do I administer these tests remotely and in person? We're going to talk about the TIDE system, which is where you get accommodations. Whoops, why is this coming up again? Stop sharing. How do I administer these tests remotely and in person? And what do the results look like? You want to know once you give this test, you've got to look at the results. Please don't give your kids the test and just ignore the results, because that would really, it would just be real waste of time to do that and a torture for the kids. And then we'll wrap up and talk about some questions. So Cambium has made enhancements to the testing system. They used to be called AIR, and they're releasing quite a few enhancements. They're going to help, the changes will help educators gather needed assessment data about their students and provide the ability to conduct remote testing if we need to, which I know obviously some of us do. The changes will include the ability to test remotely, and you can video chat and voice chat. I mean, like text chat and voice chat with your students. You can, not yet, but you will be able to schedule test sessions in advance of the day. So if you wanted to give the test on Friday and it's Tuesday, you can set that up. Not yet though. And they're putting in something where you can, based on test results, you can make assignments, but that's not ready yet either. The new system works in Firefox, Chrome, and it says on desktops, but I'm sure it's on laptops too, and Chrome OS, which is what's used on Chromebooks. So it does not work on the iPads. So they're going to have a laptop or a Chromebook, which I guess is also a laptop. Anybody who used to proctor the tests can still proctor the tests. You'll be able to see and talk to your students, and they can share their screens with you. Students can't see or talk to any other students. They don't even know if there are other students on. And CIA, the company, will not be able to view anything that's going on, and they don't save anything. They don't save any of the conversations. I mean, they do save the results. I'm going to give you an overview, unless we have lots of questions before about just the general stuff.
No, I think somebody was just wanting to point out to everybody that some of the emails that are going to people are going to their spam, because they're not sure the company, like they've never seen that company name. So you might check your spam if you haven't already received the email to reset your password.
Yep. That's a good point. And if you request a change to your password, it might go to your spam. So whoever said that, are you getting an email that said some welcome email? I never got that. It's probably in my spam.
And Kelly said yes. She must have gotten the welcome email, but so everyone check your spam folders, I guess, is that lesson. And as you're starting, is third grade taking the test in October? Are you aware of that, Anne?
Third is not, just
Okay.
4th through 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this is the overview of the portal. We used to go to newhampshirenh.portal.airasked.org, You can still go there and it will send you to New Hampshire portal, Cambium, asked, assessment state test, I don't know what that means, .com. So for now, you can still use the old one, but eventually I'm sure they'll make us change that. So when you go there, this is the home page. You'll come to this home page and there are lots of options on here. I really haven't used the other options. You could click on contact us, but there's a phone number at the bottom. I have downloaded the secure browser, but we don't have to. So there's other stuff in here, but pretty much when I come to this page, I click on test administration. And I come to this page that I call the 9-box page, even though you can only see 6, but there were 9. There are 9 on this page, but there really aren't 9 anymore. So there have been some changes to this page that I call the 9-box page. So here are some of the changes. This was changed, which I think was a good idea. The first thing you click on is test administrator, and then it used to say test administrator again, which was confusing. So if you want to administer the test, that's what you would click there. Another change is online reporting system, which is where we used to see the summative results. So, oops, I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward. So that's gone. And then airways reporting down here on the bottom left is also gone. That's where we used to see the interim and modular results. And that has changed to just one button called reporting. So my 9-box page is now an 8-box page, which is very sad because I can't call it the 9-box page anymore. But anyway, so this is what happens. If you want to administer a test, you would click on this box. If you want to see any of the reports now, it's going to be this, I mean, maybe they'll change it for the summative, but right now, the benchmark and interim results will be in the reporting system and probably past year summatives. Since nobody took the summative last year, they may not be there, and I don't know if they're going to go back to the year before. The TA practice testing site, I never go in there. I'd rather look at the questions in the assessment viewing application than look at them here. Tide is the user system. It's where all the students are loaded into, all the teachers are loaded into, rosters are created, accommodations are created. That's in the Tide system, so you will need to do something with that. The test administration certification is, you have to take that before you can go any further. And I do see that somebody asked a question and said they tried to log into it. You can't go any further than this unless you do the test administration certification. If you've done it past years, it's exactly the same. Right now, it's exactly the same as it's ever been, but you still have to do it. It doesn't have any of the new changes in it yet, but what we're told is that you take this test administration certificate program, and then there'll be a short add-on that you have to take once the new system is ready. So I would do this as soon as you can. It takes about 30 minutes. This one is very important for the modulars, for learning about what the questions say. One of my favorite things about these tests are that we as teachers really learn the depth of what the standards are. So by looking at a 5th grade question, I very often have gone into schools and showed them these questions, and they said, well, we don't teach that. Like, but that's what your standards want you to teach. So that to me is the most important thing in this whole system, is looking at the assessment viewing application and seeing the types of questions that your standards are requiring. But they're not useful. It's not that useful for the interims. The inbox, I've never used. I assume it's a mailbox, but I've never used it. I don't know who would send me an email there, but if anybody ever does, I'll never get it. And the last one is test administration resources. And I usually just say, okay, and there are the test administration resources, but I think I'm going to show them to you a little bit because they are kind of handy. Again, I come to the home page, click test administration, which brings me to the 9-box page, which is now the 8-box page. And I click on test administration resources. And in there, there's a lot of stuff. If I click on general information about the tests, so I can learn how they do scoring, I can get some information about how they write the questions, how you take assessments, how you take these assessments, sample blueprints. For teachers, is the best. So here you've got sort of performance level descriptors. If you look at, say, grade 4 math, level 1 students for 4 OAA, which is operations and algebraic thinking, the first standard, a level 1 student is able to do this. A level 2 student is able to do this. So this is also very useful when you're trying to understand your standards with more depth. Another thing that's really useful in the resources, which is related to the standards, is the rubrics for the writing assessments. So these are the rubrics for the modulars or the benchmarks. And these are the rubrics for writing for the summative assessments. I'm not sure why they're different. I just look at these, but you want to look at them. There's a 3rd grade informative and explanatory. So this is the rubric. So this should be used. I know people use other programs for their writing, but this is what the standards say the students are supposed to be able to do and how they're scored. So that is the most useful stuff that I know is in there. There's also, let's see, the manuals. If you can't remember the stuff that I'm telling you today, it's in the manuals. One that I use quite a lot is the accommodations. What's a real accommodation, what isn't? And if you want to learn how to do some reports, it's in there too.
And can I ask, can paraeducators complete the test administration certification?
Yes. Everybody, you have to have an ID in the system, so somebody will have had to add your ID to the system. If you're not in there, ask your principal to put your name in there, because there's good information out there and you can go through the certification process. So that's the 9-box, now 8-box page. Oh, yep, now 8-box page. That is really the overview of the system. You've got those 8 different options of places to go. And if you forget them, you can either look them up in the resources, or you can watch this video again, or you can write to us or call us. Next part is, how do I administer these tests remotely and in person? This is the part that's changed quite a bit. And I'm going to say again that I have not had a chance to try it. So I'm just going to be telling you what we have been told and shown through a PowerPoint. So again, you go to the portal through one of these ways. It'll bring you to the home page. Click on Test Administration, which is the one I always use from the home page. And then you want to do a live test administrator interface. It will bring you to this page. This is new. And I don't know if it'll look exactly the same or if it's going to say State of New Hampshire on it. I have no idea, but it's going to be basically this, look like this. And what we had before was this. When you first went into the testing system, it asked you which test you wanted to give. But that's not going to be the first thing anymore. This will be the first thing. What you're going to do is start a new session. So you're going to start the session right away. And if you've ever given it before, you know that we always get this pop-up blocker problem. So you click always allow the pop-up, and it's still, every single time it's going to ask you to do it again. Then you can choose the tests. So here you choose the tests, and there's a few different buttons you can push on here. You could select any of these. You could select Interim, Modulars, or Braille, or you could click on the plus signs for any of those. And I'm going to say, always use the plus sign. If there's a plus sign, always use the plus sign. So this is what I'm going to go back. So in this example, I'm going to click this plus sign, and that's going to open up and give me the choices of the interims. So I want to either choose math or ELA. In this case, I'm going to click the plus sign, and all my choices will open up. There's no different clusters we're talking about for standards. It's going to be all of 3rd grade, all of 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. And then I'm going to choose the grade. So I want to give the 5th grade math tests. The next part is you choose either remote or in person and start the session. But for a second, I'm going to go back and show you what happens if I don't use the plus sign, just so if you get there, you know your way out. So if I use the plus sign on the interims, that will open that up. But let's say I forget to use it here and I click on the math button. I will have assigned all of these assessments. And I may want to do that if I'm giving it to a whole bunch of different grade level students. but chances are I'm really only concentrating on one grade level. So I really want to back out, click on the math, that will empty everything out, and then choose the test I want. Then I can go choose remote or in person, and let's say remote for now, and start the session. This will bring us to a page that is currently there, and you have to choose a test reason. So the reason doesn't have to make any sense. You could give the winter in the fall, or you could give the spring in the fall, or the winter. It doesn't make any difference. It could be the fourth test you're giving and you call it test 1. The system doesn't care what you call it. But I would really strongly suggest, if all of your grade level, if you're a 3rd grade teacher or 5th grade teacher, and you're all giving the test together, you know, your 3 other 5th grade teachers, you all change this, call it by the same test reason. And I'll show you on a report later why that is. So that's my suggestion is, if you're doing this with the other teachers in your grade level, choose the same test reason.
Just a quick question of the, can you do a remote session and an in-person session at the same time? And I'm not sure we've gotten that information yet, but.
I think you can set up 2 sessions, but I think we need to ask that. I'm gonna write that down, remote and in person.
Yep. And then the other question was, when you are choosing the test, you are choosing, again, if you're 4th grade, you choose the 3rd grade test, because the one that's listed for 4th grade isn't already accommodating for the 3rd grade test, correct? They're saying you choose the year before.
That's right. You will have to choose, if you're a 4th grade teacher, you choose the 3rd grade test, right? And I think you can set up 2 testing systems. I don't know that for sure. So we will find that out and get back to you on that. Once you've chosen your test, you've chosen the test reason, you've decided if it's remote or in person, you will come to this screen, and it's going to be the same screen no matter what you've chosen there. So if your students are using a laptop and they don't have the secure browser, you will have to get this link to them. So you're going to use whatever method you're currently using, if it's Google Meets or email or however you're communicating with your students, you are going to have to send them this link. So I have a little parent there, because if they're home and they're little, they're going to have trouble with that. So you're going to need a parent, and you're going to probably have to go through a process of explaining it to them before the test happens. If they're actually in your classroom or they have a secure browser, you can give them this code, which is just like they used to do. You'd have a secure browser, they'd type in their name, their student ID, and then the session ID.
And
Yep.
do you have to change the student grade levels in Tide to allow them to take the grade level before?
Yes, you do. So, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It can also, hopefully your schools will do that. Somebody in your school will do that. I'm going to write that down too, because the DOE, somebody needs to tell schools to do that. Because it can be done all at once, or you can do it each student individually, and I'll show you how to do that. So when you click OK, the session has started. So here's that test, here's that session number like we used to see. But this is new. We never had this before, this button here. This is asking, it wants to approve your hardware. Can the system use your microphone and your microphone and your webcam? Yes, just say yes. And there you are. Aren't you beautiful? Whoever you are. So that has started. The student will now, if they either have their session ID or test ID, or you gave them that link, they will come to this screen. If you gave them the link, this session ID will be put in. If they're using the secure browser, they will have to enter this session ID in.
Can you put the link into their Google Classroom?
Yep.
Okay, and are students going to need to know their student ID to do this?
Yes, they are.
And they get that paper, right? That's what you're showing them that they can look at.
Well, yep, in Tide, somebody at your school is going to have, or you will have to print their student ID cards. So I'll show you how to do that. But hopefully somebody at your school will be doing it for you. and that information will have to be sent home. So students need to know that they need whatever their name, if their name is spelled wrong, a lot of students get their names put in the systems backwards. So their last name says their first name. Whatever it says for first name, that's what they type in, even if it's wrong. And then, you know, the teacher can fix it later, but at the time, whatever it says on the card. And then they do have trouble entering the session ID because there's a lot of numbers. So if they're little, it's hard. Next, this is what they will see. And they could have, if you had not clicked the plus sign and you had clicked the box for math, all of the assessments would show up here. So that's why you really just want to click the ones you want them to take. So in this case, we just want the student to take this. I should have hidden this down here, but we just want the student to take this. So this grade 5 math interim assessment. So he or she will click on that. And then they have to check their network for video and to make sure that their computer is set up. So they click on that and the system will check it and they're all set and they can continue. Now I'm sure that I'm going to get some questions. What if they're not all set? Because some of them will not be all set, I'm sure. The Cambium is setting up a way for us to check this before the tests. So I don't know yet if every teacher is going to have to check with every child or if we can send something home to parents. I don't know that yet. But we will be getting that information hopefully very shortly. But so students will have to check and everything's okay, hopefully. And then again, they have to say whether they can allow the microphone or webcam. Once they say yes, there they are. There's a cute little face. And everything worked. So now the student is waiting. This is a screen that they used to get. Students are waiting for approval. This is the screen they see, and so they just wait. Now back to what you see is this. You see all the students who are waiting. We used to have an approve all, but we don't have, that isn't there anymore. You have to approve them one at a time. I'm just gonna go to the page, hold on. If I can. Sorry. Yeah, so that doesn't tell me anything. So you're gonna click on the student and say yes they can or no they can't. Do you have a question? No, okay, so you can click on any student who's waiting and this will open a chat widget so that you can see the student in a larger window, so like that. And the student can never see or talk to another student, only to you. At this point, you are connected to this student like a Zoom, like you would be on Zoom. They can see you, they can raise their hand. If you want to see their screen, I think that's a couple screens down, but they may want you to, if they have a question and they need you to look at their screen, you can do that with this view screen. Now you want to approve the student. So far she hasn't even started. So once you say approve, all of a sudden her test will start. And even though that says question number 7, I'm sure that it will start on question number 1. I would hope anyway. So she can start taking the test and they can see their little chat bubble there. If she wants to chat with you, she can click on that little chat bubble. And when you want to chat with them, you can click on their little chat bubble. You can also broadcast, this is right here. They're setting it up so you can broadcast verbally, but right now you can only broadcast through a chat. So if a student is not a very good reader, you might want to go to them individually if you have something specific to say. When the student clicks on their own little face, the chat list or the chat bubble, they will be able to chat with you individually, obviously because they can't see the other students. So they'll be able to initiate the chat. And they can say, please look at my screen. And you'll click on the share screen button and you'll be able to share their screen. And I don't even see where the share screen button is. It seems to have gone away, but hopefully it will be there. So you're going to be able to share their screen. And if they have a question, you can answer it. Some of the questions you can answer. And remember, 3rd graders have never taken this test. They don't know that they can click these arrows up here and make this whole page widen, or click this area and have the change go, all the questions open up.
And
they
by
don't
that,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, and by that you mean this year's 4th graders, because that's
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's
This
okay.
year's fourth graders have never taken the test. And the fifth graders probably in most schools have only taken it once. So they really don't know how to use the system. You can, before you give this assessment, do a modular practice with them and just select one of the modular assessments, open that, have them work on it at school or at home. You can display the question on your whiteboard or on your screen and have the students work through it. You can give them the answers so that they can play with all these buttons, because a third grader, they're not even going to know how to go to the next question. I mean, a fourth grader. A fifth grader may not either. So you want to do some kind of practice with them.
And the goal again is to do this in the spring. We just didn't, correct? We didn't do it in the
Nope.
spring because of,
The
no.
goal is to do it in the fall.
Oh, so it won't be offered in the spring.
It will be offered. This system for the modulars and the interims will be available from whenever they open up until the end of the year. The summatives are, right now, they're saying we're going to be giving the summatives in the spring. Obviously, that will depend on COVID. But
Okay.
right now, so during the year, you do want to use these the modular assessments. But in October, you want to give the interim assessment. You'll be able to monitor, like we haven't seen any activity on the student for a while. You could chat with that student, you could call. If they need help, they can call. You can, either way, back and forth, you can initiate the conversation or they can initiate the conversation. And here you are talking to each other. And this is what you see. This back here is what they see. Although I'm pretty sure this is a video, not a still shot, I'm sure. And this is what it would look like when you're both looking at the student's screen. I guess that actually this is her view, this is your view, even though they're looking at different questions right now. So that is how to administer. It's definitely more complicated than it used to be. I would suggest, if you can, to try it with a student who is mature enough to just try it and go through it. Use the modulars, not the interims. Start a modular and work through it with a student just to see how it works, because nobody's seen it yet. And I would suggest that anyway, every year. Okay, we have more questions on that before I move on to the tide system?
Do you know, will there be training for the person at school who's supposed to do all of the pre-test setup?
Yes, there is. I mean, if you're you mean the printing the tickets and printing, is that what they mean? Probably.
I'm guessing. I read you exactly what people write.
Okay,
So just for everyone out there, write exactly what you want me to ask. So I'm not.
So the pre-test setup is really the only pre-test setup is a secure browser if the students are going to use the secure browser, and that's the same as it's always been. The other thing is all students need to know their numbers, their student ID number, and that's through the tide system. Somebody needs to set that up, and then somebody also needs to change the grade that they're going to take. So those are the setup things. I don't know if there's going to be an official training, but I will write that question down and I will get the answer to that. And if there's somebody in your school who you know is going to be responsible for this, you can have them call me and I'll help them. I'll show them what to do.
Super. And then Sarah wrote, and this is a great idea. You can log onto a laptop as a student and test it yourself if you have two devices. So thank you for that.
That's very true, but I'm supposed to pretend it's not.
Okay.
Okay. So did everybody hear that?
It's better to not know that.
It's a great suggestion. Just when you're doing it, make sure you're using the modulars and not the interims, because if you go on as one of your students using the interim, that will be their test, and that will get recorded in their on their permanent record, whatever that means.
Can the interim be administered more than once?
Yes, it can. And probably if you administer at the beginning of October and you want to administer at the end of October, you probably could. And both will be, the state will have both of those. You can administer them 99 times.
Wow. Okay, what if a Chrome browser is downloaded into the iPad? Could a student then use the iPad?
Maybe. That might work. I don't know that. But you wrote that, so I'll find that out too. I guess that would make sense. Or, yeah, it just won't work with Safari. So yeah, Chrome browser might work.
Can you show us how to print the ticket?
Yep, that's where I'm going. That's actually the next step. Perfect
And
question.
then will we need to input accommodations and submit them to the state?
You don't have to submit them to the state, but you do have to enter them into the system. Somebody in your school has to enter them into the TIDE system. So that process should be the same as it is for the summative.
And then one more, what is the testing window we're required to administer the interim?
October, everybody's supposed to be done by the end of October. And I can't give you the open window because I don't know when they're going to be ready. Hopefully very soon.
Okay. And the test is done in one day? How long are the tests?
Oh, there are about 30 questions, 25, 30 questions. So, you know, that would be very long for a little child to do both ELA and math in one day. But they should be able to finish it in an hour. A typical kid could finish it in an hour, but most kids probably will take a little longer.
Okay.
If they take less than that, they're probably just clicking through it.
Melissa White said the end date for interims is not necessarily October 31st. We have some flexibility. Thank you, Patricia.
No, Melissa, she is from the state and she is the testing person from the state. Thank you. I didn't know you were here. So they can go past the beginning of November. Great. Thank you. We have lots of questions that I'm going to send to you, Melissa. I'm glad you're there.
I don't know if Melissa's there. A woman named Patricia sent that in. But anyway, thank you.
Oh, I thought you said it was Melissa White. Okay.
Well, someone said Melissa said that. So.
Oh, Melissa said that. Okay, that's good. So I guess I don't know the end date. We will find that out. That's something we will find out. So are we ready to go on to the TIDE system?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the TIDE system is where you're going to print test tickets, where you're going to set up any accommodations, and you're going to give access to different grades for the tests. I have this little mother here again because somehow you got to get the test tickets, or at least the student ID number, to the home if you're doing it remotely, whether it's a parent or whoever is going to be taking it. So to print test tickets, you click on TIDE. It says print test tickets. This is almost intuitive, not quite, but almost. So print test tickets, and you can print them from a student list or print them from a roster. I'm just going to show you how to do it from a student list because no rosters are set up yet. And you have to choose the grade. So you're looking for students in 5th grade. Click on 5 and then search. And then you can view the results. And these are actually student names. I just blocked them off. So all the 5th grade students are listed here. Let's say everybody has their test ticket, but these 2 kids lost their test ticket. So you need to reprint them. So you're going to just select them and then click print. If you wanted to print them for everybody in 5th grade, you just click there and it will select everybody. Click on the little printer and print either all my test tickets or my selected test tickets. Then print. And you will get here through 3, even though I only picked 2. These are what the test tickets look like. And these are, again, this number has to get to the parents and the way they spelled the first name. So if this person's name is Pat or Patty, she has to know how to spell her whole name. Ann with an E, and if her name is really Ann with no E, then she's going to have to type it in with an E and then fix it later. That's test tickets. That's fairly easy. Somebody else can do that for you. If you have a lot of students in your grade, like let's say you have 150 students in one grade or 100 students, and if you print them all, I'm going to go back to this. If you choose to print them all, you're going to get 150 prints, and somebody's going to have to divvy them up. Your school has done this before, so somebody will know how to do this. But if they don't, you can do it. if you have access to the students. So the next part is setting up the accommodations. Somebody in your school has done this before, so whatever the system is that you usually do is the same system. Your special ed people have to be involved. There has to be communication about this. So you go to Tide, but now you pick students, view or edit, and you come back to the same screen. Pick the grade. So this time I'll pick 3rd grade and search. All my 3rd grade students will come up. These are one, every student here, just with no names. And this time I just want to select one student. There is a way to do an upload for this. So if you're not doing this, or you're the tech person doing the uploads, there is an upload way to do this. But if you're just doing one student at a time, you would click on that little pencil and you come to the accommodation screen. This is the beginning, and then this is more of the page. It's like 3 pages long. So there are lots of accommodations you can choose from. You'd have, somebody in your school has done this before. This has not changed. It's exactly the way it used to be. So you would check whatever you're checking on your accommodations. The last thing that has to happen is the interim testing grade has to change. So I probably should have picked a 4th grade student here, but I picked a 3rd grade student. And originally, right now, all the students are set up with their current grade. So this is a 4th grade student, it would be, the 4th grade would be picked there. I usually just select all, and they can take any grade test now. You can just select the grade you're going to give them, but you might as well just select them all. Whoops. And you have to do it, let me go back a second. You have to do it for math, ELA, and if you want to do it for science, you have to do it for science. So I'm going to go forward, and then don't forget to save it. You have to save it. So again, that's accommodations, and somebody has done that before in your school. If they have questions, they certainly can call us or the DOE. Questions before I go?
Just one was, do you know of anything that's changed with accommodations with remote learning?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't, but we will look into that. I don't know. That is a very good question. But I bet you the system hasn't changed, so that'll be interesting. I know that the governor has required all special ed teachers to have IEPs meetings with all parents before school starts. So IEPs may have changed, certainly. But I don't know about accommodations. We will get back to you on that one.
Okay. Also, we have, will school results be made public?
I don't think so, but we will find that. I'll get an answer to that too. I doubt it.
Okay.
I'm going to say I totally doubt it, but I will get the right answer to that.
Do VLAC students need to take the test?
I think they do, but I will also find that out. If they're enrolled in your school, then they do.
Will the state be using the data reported through this testing requirement for accountability purposes? What's
No.
the purpose of this testing cycle if summatives are being given in the spring?
One of the things they want to know is, does the system work? But that doesn't really explain that. The state is really pushing for everybody to be using data to inform their instruction. And this year, especially, we have no idea what the kids didn't learn or didn't retain. And this is kind of the way they're pushing us to look at data to inform instruction. But it's not going to be used for accountability.
Okay, thank you. Is there a way to change the grade for multiple students at once?
Yes, you can upload there is a way to do that. And it's on the page that when you first click on Tide. I go back to it for a sec. Da-da-da. There. This right here, you can't really see it, but it says upload interim grades. So somebody can set up a file and upload all the students at once. Actually, I might suggest that the state do that, actually. I'll write that down. The state should do that, but there is a way to do it. It's just setting up an Excel file. Your tech person can do that.
Okay. If a student typically has a read aloud or another accommodation requiring a one-on-one, would we need to assign them to a para or separate teacher to do this remotely?
Yes. Yep. Anything else?
couple more. How will case managers give the support? Would that be one-on-one in?
It depends on what the support is. If it's one-on-one reading, they're gonna have to do it virtually, or they can do it in school if their kids are in school.
Okay.
It's how, whatever you're doing to deliver your services now, once school starts, that's the way you're gonna have to give the support. If you have something specific that you're thinking, I don't know how I'm gonna do that, write that in and we'll figure that out.
Okay, I think we caught them all. Thanks. Keep going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're almost done. Yeah, it's 10 minutes. So what do the results look like? And, oh, I had these backwards, don't I? So what do the results look like? First, I'm going to talk about the interims. To find the results, you're on the home page, you click on test administration, and then you go to reporting. This is a new page. These are last year, so last year's modulars. If anybody in your school took modulars or interims last year, you will have access to the data if you have access to the students. So right now I can see that for math benchmarks, which are the modulars, the names go back and forth, modular or benchmark. All the students, 3, 4, and 5, this was how they scored. This was the low end and this was the high end. And same for reading, low end and high end. So let's look at the math. I'm going to go in and see what we have there because I know my students just took an interim. So I'll click on that. And as you can see, I kind of faked it in here. So interim, I want to look at my 5th grade interim results. These are all the tests the students have taken. This is the count of students, and I'll talk about that in a second, and the test reason I'm going to go back to. This is the score. The average score for the test for the whole grade, for everybody, for all these 84 students who took the test, the average score was 463. That means nothing to me. I have no idea what that means because I don't know what the range is. I don't know anything. So it doesn't help me at all. So I just don't even look at it. Then you've got the low and the high percentage, so you can see that. And even now, this isn't that much information, but it's, you know, if you gave this test to 5th graders in the fall, and then you gave this test to 5th graders in the exact same test at the end of the school year, this would change. And that's what you want to know. You want to make sure that you're making progress. This is the date it was given. And if you look at the test opportunity, I told you earlier that when you're choosing the test opportunity, if you have other teachers in your grade, it's a good idea to make sure that you all choose the same test opportunity. And here's an example of what happens if you don't. So this 3rd grade teacher, because 15 kids is probably one teacher, gave the numbers and operations fractions B test and called it a pretest. This 3rd grade teacher with 11 students took the exact same, or the kids took the exact same test, but they chose unassigned. So now you don't get to see all of those together. As an administrator, you probably want to see all together. You want to see all the classes together. You also will want to see it as a teacher, but once you click in there, you can see the teacher. So you want to keep them as, you want to have them all the same test reason. So anyway, let's go look at the results. Interim, 5th grade, I click on that. And I come to this report. There's some words up here usually, but it's just, you know, my school and grade and stuff. These are the teachers. So now I can see how all the teachers, it broke out for all the teachers. 15 out of 16 students took the test, all of them, so you can see that. And here's that score again, that means nothing to me. So the average score is this, 610 is probably the highest score. Then on this, you can see the different clusters. It's, if you know the math standards for these grades, these are the domains for the standards. And you can see scores for geometry or measurement and data, number and operations, base 10 or fractions, and operations and algebraic thinking. And what you see is this. If I clicked on geometry, this will open. And I can see how each teacher's class did on that particular test. And then you could look at it again later. If you want to see how a student did, you click on this performance by student, and that will open this. You can only see one student at a time on the interim. So it's not that helpful if you've got tons and tons of students. But you can see here, this student got question number 13 wrong, 16 correct, 18 incorrect. So you can see question by question how the student did. And later on the PowerPoint, when I'm talking about the modulars, which I don't think I'm going to get to today, you can see that I can click on this question right here and see what the question is. I can click on this 0 and I can see how Johnny answered it. I can see his answer. If it was a multiple choice, which choice? If it was a write-in answer, what he wrote in, how he dragged things around. So you can see student by student, but you can't see all the students at once. So before I go on to the benchmarks, do you have questions for that?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to go to the benchmarks quickly now because I think they're so useful when you're looking at data and trying to figure out what kids know that I'm going to push them a little bit here. This is a report that it doesn't come directly out of the system, but it's one you can make. And it's one I ended up using years ago, and this is what happened. So I sorted everything. Here are the questions, students right here, their scores. These are their answers. And on top of the questions, the question numbers, and the percentage of students who got the questions correct. So everybody got this one right, and only 13% of the kids got this one right. So it's like, okay, let's look at it. So let's look at what they did well first. Okay. Oh, yay, multiply 2-digit number by 2-digit number. I knew they could do that. That's great. So that was great. And then you go here, 75% of them could compare fractions. That's good. I thought maybe it was going to be lower, but that's good. And 75% could divide within 100. Yay. Okay, let's look at the low end now. Multiply a 2-digit. Only 44% could do that? That's exactly the same standard. Wait, they could only 25% could compare fractions on this question, and only 13% could divide within 100. What is going on here? So when I did this with the teachers the first time, it was, this is stupid, the data's not right, what's wrong, blah, blah. So we finally calmed down and we took the test and we cut it up so that each question was on its own piece of paper. And we laid them out in front of us so that question 10 was first on the left, then question 1, then question 3. And we looked at them. And what we finally saw was that all the questions on the left, the high questions, had pictures on them. And all the questions on the right did not. So instead of going and saying, oh my God, I need to teach them how to multiply digits, or I need to compare fractions, or I need to divide within 100, what I need to do is teach my students how to draw pictures with their word problems. So this is the kind of information you can get out of the modulars. Really detailed information about what your students know and don't know. It's 3 minutes of 3, and I don't want to continue when we were only supposed to go for an hour. I would normally give you more information about the benchmarks, but right now the interims are so important that I'm going to stop there. And if you want to stay on, I can certainly show you. If not, we will have other webinars in the future that have the benchmark information, modular information, and any updates we get from Cambium. So please stay tuned for that. I want to get out of here and go to the end. I want to skip all these, sorry.
And is there any way how you can see how an entire class did on one question?
Not on the interims without a little bit of maneuvering, because on the interims is adjustable. That's not the right word. What's the word I'm thinking of? Adaptable. So that they say it's adaptable. Every student gets his or her own group of questions. Probably they will have the same questions. They just won't be in the same order, or they'll get some of the same questions. So you can. With the modulars, you can see how the whole class did on a question, on every single question. Any more? More questions?
I don't believe so, but just before anyone logs off, first of all, thank you for being on this. The webinar will be uploaded onto YouTube, so you can rewatch this, pass this to others, and it will be offered many other times throughout the month. Check our website. The next time it's going to be September 16th. We offer a morning and an afternoon session, just in case anyone's looking. We did get a couple questions on that. So I wanted to get that out there before anyone hung up. And
Okay.
that tomorrow you will get an email with Anne's PowerPoint as well as your professional development certificate.
And I will leave the slides that I didn't go over. So if you want to look at the modular information, it will be on there too. Whoops. Yeah, so all of our stuff is on YouTube, everything we've done in the past. You can go to YouTube and find it. And this is our information. Please call us. Please send us an email if you have questions. We will answer. And I am going to answer all the questions that I didn't get to answer. I will send that. Hopefully I'll get it done before the email goes out.